Hi, everyone. Hope everyone had a great weekend. It was a beautiful weekend, so I hope you got out and enjoyed yourself. Today's next lesson, we're skipping lesson 5 and we're going to lesson 6. In lesson 6, we're basing our lesson off of this book called The Paper Bag Princess. We have not read this together yet. It's very quick. It's a picture book, so I'm going to read it quickly before I get started. So this lesson might be a little bit longer. All right, The Paper Bag Princess. Elizabeth was a beautiful princess. She lived in a castle and had expensive princess clothes. She was going to marry a prince named Ronald. Unfortunately, a dragon smashed her castle, burned all of her clothes with his fiery breath, and carried off Prince Ronald. Elizabeth decided to chase the dragon and get Ronald back. She looked everywhere for something to wear, but the only thing she could find that was not burnt was a paper bag. So she put on the bag and she followed the dragon. He was easy to follow because he left a trail of burnt forest and horses' bones. Finally, Elizabeth came to a cave with a large door that had a huge knocker on it. She took hold of the knocker and banged on the door. The dragon stuck his nose out of the door and said, "Well, a princess. I love to eat a princess, but I have already eaten a whole castle today. I am very busy, dragon. Come back tomorrow." I'm a very busy dragon. Come back tomorrow. He slammed the door so fast that Elizabeth almost got her nose caught. Elizabeth grabbed the knocker and banged on the door again. So she seems to be very persistent and determined to find her prince. The dragon stuck his nose out of the door and said, "Go away. I love to eat princess, but I already eaten a whole castle today. I'm a very busy dragon. Come back tomorrow." "Wait," shouted Elizabeth. "Is it true that you are the smartest and fiercest dragon in the whole world?" He's just trying to trick him now. "Yes," said the dragon. Is it true," said Elizabeth, "that you can burn up 10 forests with your fiery breath?" "Oh, yes," said the dragon, and took a huge deep breath and breathed out so much fire that he burnt 50 forests. "Fantastic," said Elizabeth. And the dragon took another huge breath and breathed out so much fire and it burnt 100 forests. "Magnificent," said Elizabeth. And the dragon took another huge breath. But this time, nothing came out. The dragon didn't have enough fire left to cook a meatball. Elizabeth said, "Dragon, is it true that you can fly around the world in just 10 seconds? Looks like the dragon's, he took away the prince from her, but it looks like he's also trying to prove himself to this princess." "Why, yes," the dragon, and jumped up and flew all around the world in just 10 seconds. He was very tired when he got back, but Elizabeth shouted, "Fantastic, do it again." The dragon jumped up and flew around the whole world in just 20 seconds. When he got back, he was too tired to talk, and he lay down and went straight to sleep. She was up to something. She was trying to get him distracted. Elizabeth whispered very softly, "Hey, dragon." The dragon didn't move at all. She lifted up the dragon's ear and put her head right inside. She shouted as loud as she could, "Hey, dragon." The dragon was so tired, he didn't even move. Elizabeth walked right over the dragon and opened the door of the cave. There was Prince Ronald. He looked at her and said, "Elizabeth, you're a mess. You smell like ashes, your hair's all tangled, and you're wearing a dirty old paper bag. Come back when you're dressed like a real princess." So she went at through all this trouble to find her prince, who then just pretty much didn't even want her there. "Ronald," said Elizabeth, "your clothes are really pretty and your hair is very neat. You look like a real prince, but you are a bum." They didn't get married after all. I think I already showed you this picture, right? Just to show how he's dressed nicely and she's in the paper bag, and that's all he cared about in the end was, how she looked. But did he know that she came all this way to save him? Not sure. But I just want to read that quickly because I was supposed to read that in the beginning, but I didn't have the book. It was at school. And now we're going to base lesson 6. Like I said, we're skipping lesson 5. We're going to do lesson 6 based off of that. So let me share my screen. Let's get started with lesson 6. Let me put this in present mode. Okay, so for lesson 6, start at slide 1. That'd be smart. Okay, here be dragons. Did you know that years ago maps used to say here be dragons, or there would be pictures of dragons to represent unknown dangers? So dragons symbolize danger, and I'm sure a lot of you guys agree with that. If you want on your own, you can look at this as some of the examples. Fantasy readers need to recognize that characters face different kinds of dragons. Some are literal, like in our paper bag princess, this was a real dragon. There's pictures of dragon, it was a real dragon. So literal means real, actual dragons. And others are symbolic or metaphorical, meaning they aren't actually a dragon, it's something else that symbolizes something. Symbolizes the troubles that characters face. So your job is to look for troubles and conflicts and ask if the themes are in your story. An actual dragon was the actual dragon in the story, right? That was a legit dragon. But a symbolic dragon was the prince, the castle, and the forest being ruined. Now the prince was a dragon because the prince was the one who wasn't nice to her in the end. She went through all that trouble and the prince was just like, you're in a paper bag, I don't want to even marry you until you look nice. So he only cared about appearances. So he symbolizes a dragon. Like I said, dragons are a harm in a fantasy book or novel or some type of danger. The castle was keeping her from getting to what she wanted. It was an obstacle. So that's why the castle is a symbolic dragon. It symbolizes danger. The forest being ruined, that also symbolized something bad. So do we see how these are symbolic versus actual? So every fantasy book and everyone that you're reading, there will be some type of dragon, whether it's an actual dragon because it's a medieval setting. This one would be medieval setting because we talked about this on session 1. We see castles, princesses, princes, and dragons, right? But in this case, we also want to look out for symbolic dragons, things that aren't actual dragons, but symbolize harm or an obstacle or a problem. So let's think about other stories. You can think about this at home. What are some examples of literal and symbolic dragons in our mentor text? Think about in The Thief of Always. So far, I think the house is a dragon because it's the unknown, right? Rickus could be a dragon because he's luring Harvey to get to the house. So as you go off today, the link is always your responsibility. What you're doing independently in your books is as you go off and read, think about the dragons in your life as well as in your books. I'm gonna skip that. I'm gonna skip this, and this is where we are today. So we've done all of this so far, and now we're reading metaphorically by considering characters, dragons. So this is what you are to do today. It says, think about dragons in your book, real, literal, or symbolic. So if you have actual dragons, you're gonna write them down. Give me text evidence. If it's symbolic dragons, which most of you will have, because not all of your books are medieval and most of your books do not have actual dragons. Most of your books will have symbolic dragons. Do not just choose one dragon. Choose multiple dragons. Something that is keeping them from getting what they want or something that gives them trouble or gets in their way. That's what we're focusing on for symbolic dragons. Okay, and that's it for today. So once again, just to reiterate, you're gonna read your books today, read on a little bit, and your business independent practice off of what you've read so far. So from page 1 to whatever page that you've read up to today, you're gonna focus on actual dragons and symbolic dragons and make sure you're not just listing one for each or one in general. You might not have actual dragons, but a lot of you will have symbolic dragons. So try to push yourself to think of more than one symbolic dragon. If you need any help or have any questions, join our Zoom meeting. All right, guys, have a great day.